Hello everyone! Today we're going to make this Mother's Day card. I figured I kind of got this idea because I have a lot of retiring items, as you can see on this, and I figured this would be a good time for you to go ahead and get those retired items before they're gone. If you didn't have ideas for what you wanted to do with them, any of these items, now you've got some. This is what I did. I didn't do anything to the inside yet, but basically I'm just going to do a Happy Mother's Day kind of thing on the inside anyways. And if I come up with something interesting in the next day, then maybe I'll do a companion video for it, but as for now, this is what I've got. Alright, so to begin with, we're going to take a piece of Raspberry Ripple cardstock, and this is cut at 5.5 by 8.5 and scored at 4 1/4. And I corner rounded the front two bottom corners of the card. I didn't do it on the back of it, but I probably will just for continuity. I just didn't do it at this point. I also used a piece of Beau Chateau, and I actually think that this is already retired. You can come up with something. Another piece of light pink DSP, and this is cut at 4 by 5 1/4, and I corner rounded the two bottom corners, and then let's see if we can close in on this a little bit. I did a faux stitch using the Raspberry Ripple in color Stampin' Right marker. I took some of the Twitter pated designer fabric. I took this and this, and I just cut out little swatches of it. I didn't actually measure it out. I just, using the Hoop La La set, which is also retiring, I took this and I basically figured out what size piece of the designer fabric I needed, and I just hand traced a circle and then cut it out, and that's what I have there. And I also took a window sheet and I traced using marker, which this will get cut off and covered up, so you're not going to be able to see it, but I traced another circle the same size as this onto a piece of window sheet, and then I put sticky strip in the center because I'm going to use that to hold these two pieces together. And for this stamp, I stamped it down using soft suede on a piece of Whisper White cardstock. And then I punched out the center first using the 1 3/8 circle punch. Now that is not going to be exact, so the reason I did that was to make it easier for me to cut around that and trim it to size for the hoop. And then afterwards I just cut all the way around. With this, I am going to use the little XOXO heart stamp, which is this one right here. And I'm going to ink it up in Raspberry Ripple ink and stamp it right down on my fabric. Okay? And you're just going to, as best you can, figure out the center of your fabric. Stamp it down and press it just a little bit, you know, give it a little press and hold it there just so that the ink absorbs into the fabric and you get a nice clean image. Cute, right? And then I'm going to put a little bit of glue. I'm using 2-way glue pen on this. And I'll just position that over top of the fabric. So I just trimmed around the leftover along the edge. So there it is. Alright, and you're going to take another retiring set, which is the Family Reunion set, and I used the mom stamp right here. I inked that up in some Raspberry Ripple and stamped it down on a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and then I punched it out using the 1 3/4 by 7/8 inch oval punch, and I did a faux stitch around it using the Primrose Petals Stampin' Right marker. And then I also used the Scallop oval punch and punched out a piece of Primrose Petals cardstock. And then I did, around that piece, I used my gel pen and did little dots around each scallop. And I adhered those two pieces together using one dimensional in the middle of the back of this piece. And I've got 3 dimensionals on the back of the entire piece. And we'll put that on in a little bit. I also took another piece of the Twitter Painted Designer fabric. And this piece measures 4 by 1.5 inches. I didn't actually measure it out when I did it. That's just the size it came out to. I fold it in half. Take a glue dot, and you're just going to adhere it folded in half together. And you're taking another glue dot and adhere those 2 halves together. You're going to fold it in half again so that you have, it just looks like a little piece of folded fabric, that, you know, scrap piece that you intend to work on in a little bit. Alright, I am going to take this piece, I have a basic gray Stampin' Spot, and I'm using the needle and the thread stamp from the Hoop La La set. And I'm just going to ink that up. Take a piece of the Primrose Petals Satin stitched ribbon and tie it into a bow and put it on a glue dot. And I'm just going to figure out where I want that. I'm not going to put it down yet, but I'm going to figure out where I want it so that I can stamp my needle. And it's really light, so you may want to take your basic gray Stampin' Write marker and kind of darken it up a little bit. I'm using the fine point to do that. Then you're going to take your paper piercing tool and your mat and just pierce 2 holes on, I don't know how well you can see it, but on either side of the needle up by where the thread is. On both sides, and make it big. Make that hole pretty big. Okay. And I took a piece of cherry cobbler baker's twine, and I fed it through the hole in the front, and then went over and fed it through the other hole in the back. And pull it up through. And you're just going to tie, not a full knot, just one little tie. Okay. And take your 2-way glue pen, and you're just going to put the glue over the stamped thread image and adhere the twine to that. And trim off any excess. You want to leave a little bit past that thread, past the stamp thread, but not a giant amount. And adhere more the other side of the twine down. And trim it. Okay, cute. Okay, and I'm just going to start putting things on it. Alright, so again, you've got a glue dot on the back of that satin stitched ribbon and a little swatch of fabric. Take another glue dot. This is a very glue dot heavy project here. Position that one down. And I took assorted buttons. I'm using some Sycamore Street buttons, one Sycamore Street button, which is this one, which is from the Celebration, but hopefully you've got something, either you've got a Sycamore Street button in your craft room or you've got buttons that will work just as well. And I'm using some of the Brights collection buttons. I'm using these 2. And again, I've got all 3 of these buttons on glue dots. Don't press it down real hard yet until you can so you figure out for sure where you want your buttons. Okay, I like where I put those. And I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of the hoop piece and adhere that where I want it. And then I'm going to put my mom piece on. I'm using the basic gray Stampin' Right marker. I colored in the little pin at the top of the hoop. And then I took my Crystal Effects and I'm just going to shine the needle up and the little pin and the hoop up to make them a little bit more realistic, like they actually are metal. Alright, so when I make messes of my Crystal Effects, I just take a pin and scrape off the excess that I don't want on there. There we go. That's it. Pretty simple, really cute, and that's what you get. Kind of cute, right? It looks like almost like a little sewing basket, or you know, where you would keep all your sewing supplies when you're getting ready to make a project for your mom. So I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope it gives you an idea of something you can give to your mom for Mother's Day if you haven't already come up with something. I had fun. Until next time, happy stampin'!